Everyone has a bright light inside of them that deserves to be seen by the world. That's why it's time to shine the light on the extraordinary who are accomplishing phenomenal things. This is the Shine Out Loud Show with Lillian Obogo.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever in the world you are, and welcome to another episode of the Shine Out Loud Show with me, Lillian Obogo. Now, I have a serial entrepreneur, a podcaster, an author, a digital maven. I have a woman that is basically telling us to get over, I got this. So, who is she? It is Elayne Fluker. Did I get that right?
Fluker. It's okay. I have family that still messes it up. It's fine. Elayne Fluker. That's
Elayne
me.
Fluker. Thank you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Girl, I have been wanting to interview you, I think, since last year after I saw that video post of you on LinkedIn. And you were
Which
talking
video
about,
was it?
Yeah, you were talking about getting over it, and you were talking about how we cannot do this alone. So before we jump into that post, let's kind of talk about who Elayne Fluker is. Like I said, you wear many hats. You're a podcaster, author, founder of the SiS.Academy. How do you define yourself outside of the labels?
That's a great question. How do I define myself outside of the labels? I think I am a girlfriend, like a close girlfriend. That's what I try to be to the women who listen to, women and a few good men, I would say, who listen to my podcast, Support is Sexy. That's what I'm hoping my book will feel like when it comes out to the probably mostly women who are going to read it, to the conversations that I have, or women that I, even before these conversations, women like you who happen to see a post or something like that, just feels like this is a girlfriend. This is someone that I can relate to, someone I can trust, someone with whom I can be vulnerable, someone who I can relate to in different ways. So that's the label that I would take pride in, I guess. And then being a great friend to my girlfriends who I've had for, decades now, even though I'm only 20 years old, Lillian. But, that's really who a girlfriend, a sister, just someone who is trustworthy and honest, and that roots for you. So those would be some of the things outside of the labels that you mentioned.
I like that. I like the fact that you want to be that friend, that trusted advisor, that trusted person that people can come to. And I think there's a lot of power in that, because sometimes we look at the label coach, this, that, and it's like, well, if someone took that all away, who are you supposed to be outside of that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in your podcast now, you have a podcast called Support is Sexy. And first and foremost, I love that title.
Thank you.
So episode 757, you talk about still being here. And, first and foremost, I would like to say, before I go on to my question, is to say condolences for your aunt that passed away last year. And your whole conversation was really about how to take care of number one in 2020. So in your world, what are the top 2 ways that we can take care of ourselves in this year so that we can thrive?
I think one of the ways, and this is something I actually learned back in 2008. So at the time, I've worked in media for 20 plus years. At the time, I was at ivillage.com, which was a women's website, one of the, I think maybe the biggest at the time for sure. They're now owned by NBC and Today Show. And we were invited, a few clients. Now I have colleagues of mine, and I were invited to hear the president of the company at the time, Deborah Fine, speak at an event. It was like some kind of panel or something. She was the keynote, she was speaking. And they asked her the question that they never or rarely ask men, right? How do you do it all? How do you balance it all? She was president of the company at the time. And she said something, Lillian, that sticks with me till this day, and something that I really want to embrace in 2021. She said, you have to decide what matters and what doesn't matter. If you decide that it matters, make it matter a lot. If you decide that it doesn't matter, then it shouldn't matter at all.
Ooh, I like that.
Right? So think about how much, so in her example, she was saying, and this is my interpretation, if you have children, right, and you have a big job like a president of a company or whatever, you just have other stuff you want to do, right? If you decide that it doesn't matter that you don't make it to your child's soccer practice at 4:00 in the afternoon because you're working, but then it shouldn't matter at all. You can't beat yourself up about that. You can't argue about that. You can't think about how am I going to do that. You decide that doesn't matter as much as being able to make it home for dinner with your child at 7 p.m., just as an example, right? So I can't be there at 4 because I'm going to work until 6, so I could be home at 7, because being at the table together at dinner is what matters. So that matters a lot. So again, that's just my example. But for me, it helps me sort of, it decreases my anxiety about trying to do all the things, right? It's just like, well, does it? And it's not that obviously soccer practice in this example matters, but if it matters a lot, then we have to figure it out. But if you decide, you know what, this matters more, I can't worry about that. And I think it helps you gauge sort of where you're going to put your energy. And that's what I've been really looking at for 2021, and hopefully moving forward. It's always been something in my mind, but being more intentional, I guess I would say, about it. So that's what I would invite all of your viewers and listeners to think about. How can you be more intentional about what matters to you? And then letting go of, even if it's just for now. So say you have other projects and things that you want to work on, or that you want to do, or, starting your family, or not, starting your family, whatever that is. If you decide, well, right now I'm not going to focus on that, then you have to let that go. You can't spend time worrying about it, thinking about it, beating yourself up because you're not doing it just because you made priorities, right? Priorities doesn't mean that the things necessarily, for me, on the bottom of the list don't matter as far as they're not important. It's just that I've decided these are the things I need to take care of first. So deciding what matters and focusing on that is something I would say focus on, or invite you to focus on. And the other part of that, I would say, I talk about in the book about defining your all. So we talk about having it all, right? Yeah. But I think all looks different for all of us. Your all is different than my all. So sometimes we're going by everybody else's standard of what it all means. I would also say, in addition to deciding what matters, define what your all is to you.
I think, those two key points are really crucial. And I think let's go to the last one first, because that whole, should we have it all? We can have it all. Well, what does all mean? And when we start looking at this all and trying to unpack, like you said, rightly said, what is all for me is not what is all for you. And I think then that links into what matters. Because there's this idea that we're supposed to be, and I think that plays into this, we have to be perfect. We have to be that perfect person, that perfect mother, perfect employee, perfect. And I think that is really where you start having to unpick that. And I think that's really, really important. And I think those two things, I think we should really sit down and identify for ourselves what's important and what's our all.
Exactly. And I think one of my close girlfriends from college, Erica, has an incredible son, CJ, who has some special needs. He has neurofibromatosis, or NF as it's called, and it creates tumors on different parts of his body, his spine, and it's starting to affect his walking. But he's an incredible kid. He just got into engineering school. I can't believe he's going to college. He's amazing. But one of the things she has always said, because, it's been tough for her as a mom, she has 3 other children, but she says it doesn't have to be perfect to be perfect.
Yeah.
So I think even defining what perfect is for yourself is something else we have to do. It's this quality or this standard of perfection based on something else, something outside of you, something that you see in other people, somehow that we're comparing ourselves to other. All of these things, basically, we're saying, Lillian, you get to define it for yourself. And I think that's what we are hopefully leaning into in 2021. What really matters to me? What's important to me? How am I showing up? I know that was very much part of my reflection in 2020, especially after the murder of George Floyd here in the States, and Breonna Taylor and Elijah McClain, which was very much painful for me. Another child with special needs who was essentially murdered by the police. Right. What am I doing though? We're marching for equity and equality and all of those things, which I have done in New York. I didn't do this year because I'm with my parents and don't want to get them sick. But what am I doing? How am I showing up? What matters to me? So I think those are some of the important questions to ask ourselves.
I think that's really crucial when you start identifying that. And you've brought up some things that are really important. The whole 2020, the whole heave of 2020 with COVID, with everything, the insurmountable losses of lives across the world. And we're at the start of 2021, and 27 days into the year. Does this year feel different with the fact that 6 days in, there was an insurrection in the United States? On the 20th, there was the historic moment of the first female VP who was also Black and of Asian background. So how is 2021 shaping up against 2020 so far? And I know we're only 27 days in.
I know. Well, for me personally, or you mean overall?
For you personally, I mean, you're currently in Georgia with the momentous change that's happened, that Georgia has gone through, with everything that has gone through in the last 27 days.
I think for me, it's about, and it's funny, I just thought about this the other day, just as a Black woman, an African-American woman being here in the States and having parents who were born in Alabama in the 1920s. So they experienced quite a bit of racism, to put it mildly, Jim Crow and all of that. Hope has been the thing that got me to where I am today, being able to get an education, being able to walk essentially where I want to walk. I don't know, certain areas might not be as safe as others, but I can go there. I can do things like be on the sidewalk when a white person approaches me on the street. And that was something my parents on the opposite side of the sidewalk, which is something my parents talk about, how you used to have to step off out of the way when a white person would walk your way and put your head down, or you couldn't look over at, if we were passing a school and I'd be like, oh, that's, whatever school. If it was a white school, you weren't even supposed to look over in that direction. So there's such, never mind, water fountains and that kind of thing. So Black and white water fountains, I should say. And again, here in the States and all around the world, just discrimination against, Black people, people of color. So hope, though, is the thing I feel like has been so rooted in, me as from my ancestors to today. That is what I feel. And what I'm choosing to feel this year, this idea of hope. Things seem awful now. They've been worse, and they might get worse, but I believe eventually they'll get better. Because I think just if someone had given up hope, I wouldn't have been able to vote here in Georgia.
This is
especially here in Georgia. You know what I mean? So I'm from New York originally, and it's been, blue or Democratic, et cetera. So I still would vote there, and usually I have no party affiliation, but usually I would vote Democratic and kind of feel like, oh, it's going to go that way. But here I voted for the first time here in Georgia since I moved here. Right. And it felt like I really made a difference. Now imagine if someone had given up hope on getting our right to vote. I wouldn't have been able to do that, right? Or again, education or being able to work as women. Suppose women had given up on that hope. Sometimes that's all you have. So for me, that's what I've really decided to choose to, even in the craziest of times, which it certainly has been here in the United States. I don't know, we just got to keep hope. It might sound kind of woo-woo, but it's just like, think of all the times when that's literally all you had, right? How are we going to survive?
Without hope,
what else did you have? What do you have? Right.
Without hope,
it literally has gotten us through generations, right?
And exactly. And I think we have to, as woo as this may sound, we have to sometimes stop. I know we're not where we want in terms of our careers. We may be like, oh, I don't have the bag of what I want to have in terms of this and that. But we have to stop and give thanks to the fact that we are right now the greatest culmination of our ancestors' dreams. Mm-hmm. We are the culmination of their wildest dreams, because think about from where we are from, our backgrounds and how far away we are right now. If not for that hope and that dream, my grandmother would not have envisioned what I'm doing today, nor would my great-grandmother or great-great-grandmother. So I think that whole thing about hope is very crucial. We need to hold it and nurture it, especially this year.
Yeah, someone dreamt of a day when I would be able to go into the voting booth and no one would ask me to guess how many jelly beans are in the jar, all these ridiculous questions. That's the kind of stuff they would ask people, right? Or ridiculous things about the Constitution. Yes, in the state, to keep people from voting. Just questions that you could never answer, basically, right?
How many jelly beans? No. Let's roll this back just so that I can get this.
Yes.
How many jelly beans are in a jar?
There are stories that are supposedly how many whatever marbles, jelly beans are in this jar, or things about the Constitution constitution that no one knows, or these arbitrary laws and things. You have to watch on Amazon Prime. What's the movie with Stacey Abrams most recently? I don't know if it's called All In. I'll look it up and give you a link to it. But it's a documentary that talks about, and it's like things that you already know. At least for me, it was things I already knew about voter suppression, especially here in the United States. But when it goes back and brings up the history of the kind of things that people would come up against in order to vote, or to not be able to vote, actually, they're trying to do it again, especially because of what just happened in Georgia. But not to get too political, but again, hope. Someone still said, in spite of that, I dream of a day. Martin Luther King literally said, I have a dream. But all those people who showed up and marched, and I dream of a different day. I mean, it's literally, I don't know what else to say. I guess I'm really in this space because like I said, I was thinking about it the other day, like, wow, my existence is really because of the hope and the resilience, I would add, of my ancestors. You know what I mean? It wasn't just hope and let's just lay back and see what happens. It was hope and we're going to escape as, enslaved Africans and figure out a way to get to the North and all the things that helped me be able to survive. But yeah, so you think about it, your hope, your dreams. And I would say too, as you said, Lillian, about your grandmother or great grandmother not being able to imagine you here, but maybe there was something in her, even if she didn't know at the time, that did imagine you being here. Right. Her survival, resilience, and all the things that she did led to your grandmother and your mother and you being where you are. So even if you're not aware of it, right, I just think there's something in us as a people. Hope is all we have sometimes, and hope and a plan, hope, prayer, and a plan. That's what you need.
Hope,
right?
Prayer, plan, and action.
In action, exactly. Like let me clarify. Hope keeps you going, lets you know it can change, right? And then prayer, plan, and action. Absolutely.
Exactly. Okay, so you have had a plethora of corporate jobs and you've worked in the digital space for a very long time. What drove you away from corporate America to being a full-time entrepreneur?
I think entrepreneurship was always in me. I mean, I think back to when I was younger, I just always loved to create things. My mother worked for the library system in New York, the Brooklyn Public Library, for 30 something years. That's how I've always known her to do. And she used to bring home books all the time. Obviously, she's at the library. She's going to bring home books for her children. And I am almost embarrassed to admit this. I used to love to write the books more than reading them. So other people might think, oh, you must have grown up reading books all the time, which I certainly did read a lot, but I just wanted to create. So there was that was always in me. And then creating little businesses or ideas that essentially were businesses when I was younger, like I'm going to create this ticket for you and you got to pay me for such and such. That was always there. And then actually in 2006, I always use this as the example of the business that I wish I had known then what I know now about keeping a business going and selling it. So I actually had a personal assistant agency for celebrities back in 2006. So this was before the internet was huge and all the, I would never do a business like that now. I think it's still a great idea. But at that time, Lillian, I was at Essence. I think I was, entertainment editor, or maybe I was at Suede magazine managing editor, but I was still in publishing. Right. At that time, you didn't go online and post and tell that, so-and-so celebrity was looking for someone. You picked up the phone. First of all, you didn't even email. You picked up the phone and call like, hey, I'm working with so-and-so. They need an assistant. Do you know anybody? Right. That's how it happened back then. Publicists, managers, whatever would reach out to you. So I asked a few friends at the time. Ava DuVernay, the director now, is one of those people. What do you think of this idea? Do you think this is a good idea? And she was like, absolutely. That's definitely something people can use. So I just started. I didn't know how to do it. I just started an agency. I told some people and I had 5 or 6 clients, people in LA, mostly people in LA really used assistants. And I had this business going while I was working. And the reason I let it go though, because it started growing and I was managing editor then at Vibe later on, magazine, and I couldn't do both. It was too much because the job was too big to do it. Or I didn't think I could do both. Let me say, I didn't think I could do both. I could have figured it out, but I just didn't have the entrepreneurial skill or background or knowledge at that time. What I would have done is kept that business and sold it to somebody like an American Express concierge, or there's so many people you could. Now, of course, right now we all know. I'm like, oh, is that what you do? You build it and you can dang it. Why didn't I? Because I had I still, for some reason, I don't know, confidentiality was just embedded in me from back in the day. Celebrities that you see on TV and in big movies and all those things now, those are my clients back then. Like this is almost 20 years ago, right? So it's just like these weren't nobody, so to speak. These were A-list
Yeah.
people. They're A-list now. Maybe they
weren't
A-list
Joes
then.
off the street.
Yeah, exactly. They were people who were officially in the business and who still are. So I had a valid business. So all that to say, that's the business I wish I had kept going. I have to share that. So it happens. But I would never do it now because of social media with pictures and all that stuff. But I think all that to say, that was 2006 or so. So it was always in me. And then finally entrepreneurship. In 2014, I was at Martha Stewart at the time, loved my job, had a great manager there. But I just felt like it was time to sort of take that leap. Now, if I look back, I probably would have maybe kept that job longer, had a nice little salary going there, and then figured out my business. But I did just take the leap and decide, let me figure this out and what this could look like. And then the business evolved over time.
Okay. So it seems like you said, it's been in your blood and you've developed and you've actually gone to school in your business. You've gone to school with your business in terms of educating yourself on how to grow a business and how to be an entrepreneur. So, no experience is ever lost, I guess.
That's right. And one of the best ways for me has been interviewing other women entrepreneurs about their experience. I'm sure I would imagine that you might feel like this in interviewing all the people you talk to. You learn something, even if it's what not to do. Right. But you learn something. And that's why I started my podcast. I was like, well, where are the women entrepreneurs like me who are, struggling or trying to figure it out or just starting, or who are the successful ones who can tell me how they struggled and bumped their head along the way. And that has been just a magical experience for me. Now, 500 plus women later, look how much I've learned. Just think that's 500 hours essentially of learning from other women who are entrepreneurs. So that has been one of the best ways to learn, is to ask questions, whether it's via a podcast or something like that, or you actually having conversations with people. So I encourage folks, don't try to necessarily have the answers, discover the answers and ask other people about their experiences.
And that's powerful. I mean, for me, this whole podcast journey has always been about finding out about people. What makes you tick? Why should we care? What are people doing? What did you do? What did you break along the way? And so, I definitely agree with that. And you mentioned your podcast, and I think it'll be only fair for us to really talk about that, is that you started the show at the end of June in 2016, and you went from a 5-day-a-week format in the early days. So first and foremost, I'm a bow.
Yeah, thank you.
5 days a week. That is a serious schedule. How did you manage that schedule, and what made you say, I'm going to do it 5 days? What was the driving factor behind that?
When I first started listening to podcasts in 2016, so a friend of mine, I was back at Martha Stewart at the time, so not working, but working on a project. And I contacted one of my friends, Kevin, and I asked him, what are some podcasts you listen to? Because at the time I didn't listen to any, but I always said I didn't want to listen to my Rihanna playlist all day. So I was like, what else can I listen to? And he suggested Entrepreneurs on Fire and Smart Passive Income, which are two business podcasts I still listen to today. So I told him I wanted entrepreneurship. And from there, once you listen to one, they mention somebody or they interview somebody, then you listen to the next and the next and all that. So I realized, though, after a while, that all the podcasts I was listening to were mostly, not all, but mostly hosted by men, mostly by white men. Yes. And when they featured women entrepreneurs, which they did occasionally, the women were usually like these top performers or people who, Lillian, like, I launched a business on Friday and it made $1 million over the weekend. I'm like, that's not who are these women? That's not me and my friends. We're over here like, girl, I need to get a job. Like, this is crazy. What am I doing? I was like, who are these people? I mean, that's great. But, I just was like, I need to hear along the way. I can't hear what you did that weekend. What did you do along the way to get there? So I decided, you know what, I think I'll start a podcast. And then after thinking about that, I guess maybe coming from media and branding, I was like, well, what's going to make it different? Yes, I'm a woman. Yes, I'm a Black woman. And I'm going to interview women from all backgrounds, doing it 5 days a week. I didn't know any women that were interviewing only women entrepreneurs. And I don't say it didn't exist. I didn't know of 5 days a week, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And I just went all in on it. And I say I was channeling Oprah. She did a show 5 days a week, even though Oprah had a whole team of like 400 people. This was me in my apartment in Brooklyn. It was crazy. And this was before I knew about bulk interviewing, doing 5 interviews a day and mapping them out. This was before I knew about scheduling tools where you could just send someone a link. And this was just me going back and forth. Well, I started with my friends going back and forth with people like, hey, can you do it this day? Can you do this? A lot of my girlfriends, I love them. They're like, what is Pike? What is this? Can I do it from my phone? Okay. Call me, I'll do it. Like they're just like, Elayne's doing something. I'm that friend. They're like, what is she doing now? All right, girl, tell me what to do. But that's how it started. But I wanted to answer your question, do something that felt like it made some point of distinction, and doing a show, 5 days a week, only interviewing women entrepreneurs. And, a friend of mine, I always give her credit. Zara Green was one of the first women I interviewed. She told me, you have no idea how many incredible women you're going to meet doing this. And at the time I was all scattered and running. I was like, really? You think so? And now, again, 500 something women later, I just never imagined, what it would do. But that was the reason that I started that. It was crazy. I won't say that I don't recommend it, but it definitely was a full-time thing. I wouldn't have been able to do anything else because you were recording and editing, and I did all of it myself for 2 years. So
again, I'm just going to take my hat off to you.
It was crazy. Don't take off your hat. It was crazy.
I know what it was like when I started my podcast, and this was like 2008, 2009, 2010 on Blog Talk, way back then.
Wow.
And I know what it was like when I didn't leave my house. My first show I had was on Wednesday nights, and I didn't leave my house on Wednesdays for 3 years.
Right.
I just didn't do it. It's like you had to, this was my schedule. And
exactly.
I used to do mine live, and the pressure.
Wow, that's back when recording and doing all that was much more difficult.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Now it's so easy. People can do a podcast from the spoiled folks. I'm like, you can do it from your phone now.
Exactly. These folks don't know how hard it is.
Oh my gosh. You know more than me. If you started in 2008, 2009, oh my goodness.
I started way back then. And then there were days when it's like, okay, can you hear me now? The system's going funny. I learned how to edit audio. I learned all of that. And it takes its toll. But you know what? The rewards, like you said, pays off. And yes, we all have to channel Oprah. And
that was my channel.
I think the foolishness of that is when we think about it, we're channeling Oprah. And like you said, she has 400 people and she just gets to show up. We have to be all 400 people and then show up.
Exactly. But I was like, this will make it different. It's going to be hard. And I had no idea. Luckily, I didn't have any idea how hard it was going to be, but it made all the difference.
Okay. So, we know you're a podcaster, we know you're an author, but you also do personal development workshops as well. And your whole ethos is around growing the person. So they are not doing things by themselves on their own. And you had a workshop called Momentum. What was the genesis for this program?
Yes, Momentum is a program that I actually attended in 2015. That was that is a personal development, sort of personal growth workshop. At least that's how I describe it. It was in New York at the time. It's still there. MomentumEducation.org, I think is the website. I believe they have one in LA also, maybe in DC. But it was just this group of individuals that happened to be in my group. They have several different ones, but there were about 40 or so of us, captains of industry, politicians or people in politics, writers, activists, all these New Yorkers. So this high level of ambition, right? These people in this group. And I always say there were two things that I realized with seeing reflected in them of myself that were tough for us to ask for, like impossible almost for us to ask for: love and support. Two things that we all struggle, like boohoo crying, don't make me do it kind of struggle to ask for. And it was a game changer for me. I didn't realize that I had a problem asking for support, or that I wasn't even cognizant of the idea of asking for support and my hangups around it until I was in that group and went through that program from February through about July or so. Different, you start with the basic, advanced, and then leadership. And it was a game changer for me. So that's why I credit it really with this idea of opening me up to this idea that support is sexy. That's not something from their program, but that's what I took from it. You know how you attend these workshops, Lily, and then you go home and you go back to your raggedy ways. I wanted to do something, you just go, you're like, that was fun, but whatever. I wanted to do something to keep this going. And that's where that phrase support is sexy came from. Like, well, I'm going to think about support differently. I'm going to think of it as sexy, and something sexy, you want to get close to it, right? A dress, sexy apartment, sexy vacation. So that's where that all came from. But it stemmed from that experience in Momentum.
Okay. So that just floored me when you go to workshops and you go home and go back to your raggedy ways.
Back to your raggedy ways.
And the worst part, you just spent a whole heap of money to go to said workshop and then go straight back to being raggedy.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. That's right. And it's funny, even with Momentum, one of the things that they encouraged us to do is just sort of about connecting with people. So I lived in Brooklyn, like I said at the time. And, you know, New Yorkers just, it's not even you're being rude. You're just being a New Yorker. You walk down the street, you'll walk right past somebody and don't look at them, say hello, nod, or anything like here in Georgia. And in the southern states, they tend to do more interaction. Hey, how you doing? Whatever. And New York people be like, why are you talking to me? What's wrong with you? Like, why, you know, you're trying to get something from me. It's just who we are. But anyway, so after the workshop though, I'm this new person, right, Lillian? I'm trying to keep it going and not go back to my raggedy, isolated ways. So I walk down the street, if men or whoever, people are, I'm jogging, hi, how you doing? People are literally like, these guys said something to me, something, not anything inappropriate, but you know, they might have said something normal. I might ignore it or be like, oh, okay, whatever. I engaged with them. I had a conversation. They couldn't believe it. I could see it change the way other people were responding in that moment, just because I was showing up differently, not even just respond. Yes, I had to change my ways. So I literally saw it, and it was hilarious because, you know, again, people in Bed-Stuy are like, why is she running saying hi? I'm like, hello, hi. They're like, okay, she must be high or crazy. Like, keep the kids away from her. You know, like, but it really was, it was a game changer. I'm like, wow, this actually, you could see your energy change the energy in someone else.
I mean, like you said, you said it all. So we're going to keep on that. But before we do, I want to kind of take a sidetrack, because you are the founder of something called the SiS.Academy. What is the SiS.Academy?
Yeah, so one of the things that I have always dreamt of doing or had in my mind was this idea, in addition to my podcast, of sharing content that really helped women entrepreneurs learn. I felt like there wasn't any place where people could go. I mean, there are a lot of different places where you get all different kinds of content, but I wanted some sort of learning platform for women entrepreneurs. And most recently, I even shifted the focus, like I said, after my reflection last year, to say Black women entrepreneurs. So not that the content is only for Black women entrepreneurs, but I do think there is some nuance and some realities, honestly, you know, even with investing in those kind of things, the differences between different racial backgrounds and cultural backgrounds. So there are some nuances and things that I think, and how I show up as an interviewer or a facilitator that focuses or has Black women entrepreneurs in mind. Yeah. So that's what SiS.Academy stemmed from, this idea of me I was having these conversations on these different places, LinkedIn Live, Instagram Live, you know, in my group, in my private mastermind group, with all these incredible women of all different backgrounds. And I wanted a place where people could go to learn all of those things. So it's a site like a masterclass. I envision it like a lynda.com used to be, which is a learning platform that LinkedIn bought, right? Yep. I say it's the lynda.com for Black women entrepreneurs. So that's what SiS.Academy is. So it includes personal branding, marketing things, but also very much part of my work is personal development. I actually say my work is at that intersection, personal branding and personal development. So while you're learning marketing and those kind of things on there, or how to start your podcast, or how to build your your platform for writing a book, or how to write a book proposal, we have all those courses there. But then we also have how to take care of yourself and things about wellness, how to avoid burnout, how to create your vision. So I think I have about 50 or so videos on there, because, you know, I'm an overachiever, and we're going to keep those going. So they're video workshops. You can go on SiS.Academy and watch some of the videos for free. You just have to log in with an email. And then there are other courses that you can actually pay for, either one course or you can subscribe monthly. So, and most recently, SiS.Academy was, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, I was awarded a Founder of Change by American Express with 99 other Black women. It's 100 Black women entrepreneurs. So I do want to focus on that more and getting that out into the world.
You know, that's very powerful. And I believe at the core of me that we have to be responsible to set a space for us to learn and grow together. And I do mean that globally, as women of color globally, because we've done this in silos for so long that I think we no longer can afford the silos, and we need that global reach between Black women in the States, in the UK, in Europe, on the continent, and really start seeing ourselves as a global majority. Mm-hmm. Yes, we have nuanced differences, but seeing ourselves as a global majority, then it changes our perspective.
Yes, absolutely.
And you meant, and it is different. It is a different element of starting a business as a woman of color than somebody else. Like you mentioned, that woman that says, "Oh, I started a business out of the weekend, and now I've made £1 million
I
or
know.
$1 million."
Exactly.
You know,
That's right. £1,000,000. I forgot. I was talking to £1,000,000. Yeah,
exactly.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And look, and we didn't make it different. We don't want it to be different, right? We would love for us to get the same amount of money as a young white man who's starting a business, right? If you have the same degrees, or if usually we have to have more. So we didn't want it to be different. It's just this way, because for people who might say, "Oh, but why do you need a platform?" No one here, of course, but folks might say, "Why do you need a platform?"
Folks might say,
women of color entrepreneurs or Black women entrepreneurs. There are reasons that, just like we needed historically Black colleges and universities. We didn't say we don't want to go to the white school. Like you all,
but you didn't want us, so we gotta.
This is what provide. We have hope, like going back to what we said in the beginning, and we know we deserve an education. There's reasons you don't want us to read. We gonna read and figure this out, right? So we create our own, and then it's, why do you need your own? So yeah, we have to acknowledge that.
Elayne, we could spend just another day and a half just talking on that piece, and we won't be anywhere near done, because, the point I was going to make about the woman who goes, "I made $1 million in the weekend," what she may not be telling you and people like you and I is daddy's back end, daddy has extra funding, daddy has somebody who is in a hedge fund who allows me to have different conversations with different people at restaurants where they have where they don't have prices on the menu.
Right, exactly. Yes, that's real and good for her. But like you said, we don't have those conversations, or we need to know that. That is definitely a nuance that a lot of us do not enjoy. Right. Exactly. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Daddy or your husband. Like I speak to women, interview women who have children and running a business. I'm like, how did you do that over a weekend? You have kids. Oh my God, that's amazing. And I used to, I don't anymore. I used to forget to ask the question, like, do you have a partner? Are you, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, well, my husband is the VP of that matters." Nothing's wrong with that, but that's vital information, because I am here as a single Black woman trying to raise my children, or even if I'm married and my husband isn't the VP of such and such. I'm trying to figure out why I can't have it all and do like you're doing, but I don't have all the information, right? And it's like, oh, okay. Not that that's the excuse for why that women can do it, but we have to take that into consideration. So
it's almost as bad when people go, when you see those memes and people go, "You know what? Beyonce has the same 24 hours in a day as you." I'm like, no, Ish, stop.
No, exactly. Beyonce has 24 assistants. Exactly.
She has a chef. She has this. So don't tell me about what Beyonce does.
She has a person for all those 24 hours. I know some of the people on Beyonce's team. She ain't doing it alone because she's smart, and she shouldn't, right? She shouldn't, nor should we. So that's the whole point. Yep. Don't do it alone.
And that comes to the point that, we're talking about support being sexy. You're talking about, get over, I got this. And, when we look at it, and we've been talking just about the narrative of Black women, do you think that we are doubly hit by this? Because we have the strong Black woman stereotype that makes us reluctant to ask for help. We have that strong Black woman story that goes, yes, we can carry a nation on our shoulder while raising little Joey and little Mimi and, conquering lions. And so how do you work around the strong Black woman story?
I think we have the strong Black woman story that is self-imposed, the things that you mentioned, but then also, as I said, with the woman who launched a business over a weekend and made $1 million, there are other things to take into consideration, which I mentioned in the book. Like, for example, in the States and probably in Europe as well, let me know if I'm wrong, but here for sure, women still don't make as much as men do for the same exact job, same education and everything. Black women make even less. Percentage wise of what, you know what I mean? So there are reasons society wise, it's like, this isn't blaming, but we have to take that into consideration. Yes. So if I'm a woman going into a position up against a white male who gets paid more just because he's a white male, I'm probably going to be work 3 times harder and not tell you I don't understand something, or I can't do something, or I don't have that sort of, so those are things too I want women to take into consideration. Like, there might be reasons that you feel like this, but now let's make a different choice, because not only Does it hold you back as far as not being able to progress in your career or business and those kind of things when you don't get support? Like we mentioned, Oprah, she got a team. That's how she was able to do all the things she did. But also it's about your mental health and your wellness and your peace of mind. So you're never going to feel like you can do it all, accomplish it all when you're trying to do all that by yourself. And it's going to stress you out. Right. And it's going to it could lead to things of, as I mentioned in the book, more women even committing suicide or attempting suicide and going through all these challenges because you're trying to do it all. You don't understand why you can't. And now with the added, weight of social media, if you're one of those people who sees other people and you project this idea of, oh, they have it perfect, like these moms. Have you seen these pictures of these moms who are doing yoga and breastfeeding at the same time?
I'm sorry. Wait. Slow.
I'm telling Lillian, I'm going to send you some. I had to send this to a friend of mine. We had the same conversation. I said, no, it's a thing. There's moms. They're like standing on their head. I mean, big up to them, standing on their head, but feeding their baby at the same time. I don't know if I don't know what it is. I'm not going to judge it. It's a thing though. So if you're the mom that's holding your baby,
I'm going to judge it. You're a Virgo. I'm a Virgo.
My dad is a Virgo. He judges.
Is what we do. I got a question. Is that actually scam for the baby?
I don't have kids, so I don't know. That's why I was like, what is this? But if I did have kids and I got my baby on my hip and I'm trying to type an email and do all these other things, I'm like, damn, but I'm not doing yoga and breastfeeding though. So I'm losing as a mom. For an extreme example.
I'm sorry. We got to do yoga and breastfeed at the same time.
I am going to find you. I'm trying to tell you, I'm not joking. I'm telling you, I don't know how I came upon this, first of all. But when I saw it, I was like, what? Why is that a thing? But then also, if I'm just being a regular mom, like I'm just trying to figure it out. Or
you're just trying to make your day.
Now I got to do breast. Now I feel, or even if I don't feel like I got to do it, I can't, first of all, I can't do it. I can't, right? Like there's just, you can't do it. So it's all these things to say, there's reasons, these elements out there, you know, I'm using that as an extreme funny example, but it's true. It is a thing. And I'm going to find a picture and send it to Lillian. It is a thing, but still just this idea of there's so much out there of this is how it needs to be or how it needs to look, whether you're conscious of it or not, it's feeding you. So those are the reasons that I say that we, not only just because we're Black women and strong women and community wise, and, you know, for generations have been, even if not told, sort of forced to be the person that kept the family together and all those things. There's other reasons out there, just as women who live in 2021, that you might feel like, dang, I am losing that life if I'm not doing all these things, but you're not losing that life. I think you will lose if you don't get support, because it's just not feasible to do it all your own, and you deserve it. More than that, Lillian, that's what I want women to know. You deserve support. Look at all you've done by yourself. That's what I say. Like, even if you look at the end of the day, I've started a thing at the end of each day where I just reflect. I journal a lot, but I don't necessarily journal this, but I reflect at the end of the day. What have I accomplished today? Some days what I accomplished is not doing anything. I relaxed today. I watched TV. I enjoyed myself. But most days I did an interview. I did this. I did that. I did whatever. I spent time with friends. I just take into account or take inventory of what you did do that day and give yourself credit, right? Whatever it is. I know most of you watching, you can name 3 things that you did today that were like major feats. I'm positive. It's likely, unless today was an off day or you just took some time to rest, usually most of us fill our days with so many things that we've done and we still don't give ourselves credit and all the things by ourselves, right? So it's just like, take a moment. You deserve support. You've done enough on your own up until whatever day this is, 2021. Yes. You've done enough. You've done plenty. You put your work in. Now you need some support. And I always say, not a savior, because people think, oh, well, I don't want to be one of those people who's mooching up. That's not what we're talking. This is for ambitious women who get ish done. Yes. Right? That's not your issue. There are those women who might just be trying to get over on folks. I'm positive.
That's a different story. That's a different story.
And that's not your audience. I already know it, because you are Virgo and you about your business, and I know. So that's not, I know that's not your audience. You're not attracting those folks. No. These are the women who do get stuff done. That need to just lean back a little bit.
You know, you have kind of covered so much because, you know, especially that internet social media piece. And now my brain cannot get past I got to do yoga and breastfeed.
I'm telling you, I'm about to look at, I got my phone now. I'm trying to find it.
You know, and here's me coming with Black Girl Magic and talking about that being, in a way, another way that drives us as especially Black women, to be constant, to be super one.
Lillian, can your audience see this? I don't know if it's showing up. I can't see if
Yeah,
you all can
yeah.
see. Everybody, can you see? Listen, I don't, this is just one picture. I just literally Googled breastfeeding yoga. I Googled on Instagram, right? I don't know, but it's 500.
You know what?
Posts.
We're not shaming the concept.
Exactly.
But we're talking about it from a perspective of saying it feels like it's another thing that on this road to be perfect. There's another thing on that road that you've got to do, and
it's just another thing.
It's another thing, and it's another thing. It's almost it's the same part about that whole Black girl magic, that whole Black woman has got to be magic, and she's super Wonder Woman, and I think that whole wraps into that. So I think let's.
This is the last one. There's so many, but I don't know. So
first of all.
And maybe it's a yoga thing. I don't know. But,
First of all, my leg is not designed to do that.
I know. That's what I mean. You can't even. That's the thing. Even if you were like, you know what? I need to do yoga. And I cannot. I literally cannot do it. So like you said, I thank you for saying that, though. We're not judging. I'm just using it as an example of why, you just can't even, and you can't project on that might be the thing that women who do yoga and breastfeed do, right? But it's like,
I do yoga. That's
not what it says. It's like, we can't project that on them, that this is what they're saying about us, right? That's more what it is, our relationship with social media.
Exactly. So we also, I think that's very important, is the responsibility that we need to start taking and saying, well, if my leg doesn't get past my ear, do I then have to judge myself for being less than? And I think that practice that you gave at the end of the day, to take stock, to kind of look at your day and say, what is it that I've done today that makes me go, yeah, you know what? I'm good. I think that key piece that you've just dropped, I think is critical, that we need to start taking stock of who we are and what we've done and what we've put into the world, because then we start to become more intentional about how we show up and what we're doing. So I think that's very, very powerful.
And I think one thing just to mention about that before we close, this idea too of, I might have mentioned, I don't remember, but I might have just mentioned, tasks or things that you accomplished. But also some days I say, you know what, I wanted those potato chips and I didn't eat those today. That was good. Or Starbucks is my thing. I'm trying to slow down on the Starbucks. God bless them, but I just drink too many of them. You know what? I didn't even go to Starbucks today. I mean, it might be because I just didn't go outside, but still, that was a goal of mine and I accomplished that. So it can be just anything, or you went for a walk today, or you looked in the mirror and didn't criticize yourself today. So when I say take inventory, really sit back and think about at least 3 things. And I'm sure there's more. What are you proud of from that day? Right? You didn't call back that toxic person that's been trying to, ruin your life or suck your energy, whatever it is. It could be any range. I just want you to know it doesn't have to be your to-do list.
Work-wise, yeah. All right. And thank you for that. So, you mentioned in the very beginning when we were talking about that you've experienced rejection in your past and everything. How did you handle all your professional rejections?
How did I handle it? I think, I don't think I handled them well over time, to be, honest and transparent. I think now I realize that, no, it's just a part of the process. That's something that my brother in love, my best friend's husband, taught me. He's an artist, a visual artist. And I remember going through a process, long story short, of writing a book proposal, not this book, but something else. And the agent told me no. And I was so devastated. And he said to me, because he applies for grants and does, as an artist, you do all these different things and you don't always get the installation or all the things. No, it's just a part of the process. Right. And sometimes we don't even need to know why the no came unless it's beneficial for some kind of feedback. But it's just, this wasn't right, or it wasn't right time, or right person, right energy, right project, or whatever that is. And it's just part of the process. You'll eventually get to the yes that you're supposed to get to. So that's what has helped me over time. In the beginning, I didn't know that. And he told me this maybe, I don't know, a few years ago. So it certainly has helped me sort of get into that space of not judging it.
Okay. I think that, and I think Elayne, I love your honesty, because you go, I didn't handle it well.
I did not. Exactly. I did not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not.
I think we need to get those honest conversations.
Yeah, I took it personal. And sometimes, and I just talked to a friend the other day and she was saying, doing an interview, and she was like, you have to think sometimes it's not me. And I was like, you know what? Sometimes it is you.
Yeah.
Not anything wrong with you, but it might just be the person might be like, oh, I don't like that person's energy, or say someone's even looking for a coach. And if they don't, quote unquote, choose me or decide to work with me, it might be me, or just they didn't feel a connection or whatever. But even that is part of the process. It's not, as long as you showed up and did your best, what are you going to do? Exactly. Right? It's just like, this is just not, you have to understand that there's a reason for all of those things. So yeah.
Cool. I like this. It's like, it's not you per se, but maybe it's not you.
Yeah. Or maybe it is you. It's fine. Right. As far as for that person, not anything wrong with you, but maybe for them, it was you. They didn't connect, or you had an off day, or their energy was just right. Maybe it's them, but all those things, like, don't judge all of that unless you're doing it from this perspective of you want to learn from this. But otherwise, it's a part of the process. It's just leading you to the right person.
Cool. So your book, we've been skirting around your book. So let's talk about your book. Your book is due to be published in May, and it's going to be in paperback and audio, and I've already pre-ordered the Kindle version. So what can people expect from this book?
What can people expect? Oh my goodness, that's a great question. I think going back to where we started in the beginning, the girlfriend, that's what I'm hoping this conversation is, really a girlfriend tapping you on the shoulder. I don't know if you've had days like this, Lillian, when you're in the bookstore or the grocery store or whatever, and you're like crying or about to cry, on the verge of tears, or you've seen women like that where it's like, is everything okay? Right. So I want to be that girlfriend that comes and taps you on the shoulder during that moment and says, you deserve support. You don't have to do this all alone. Whatever you're going through, struggling with, etc., you can get support for this. So that's what I'm hoping it is, just an invitation to think about support differently, as opposed to telling you how to do it, or, there's exercises and things like that in there. But that's why it was important for me to share stories, not only my own honest stories, as you said, but also of other women and their experiences of embracing support along their journey. So I have a woman who talks about the importance of embracing your feminine energy. And I have another woman who was in Leslie Jane Seymour, who's an editor at Marie Claire, Redbook, all these huge publications, and talks about being laid off essentially when More magazine closed in her 50s, I think. So she had to go through this whole reinvention and learn how to ask for support when she then became an entrepreneur. To my coach, Margot, who talks about the importance of building what she calls your love club. So these people who are there to support you. So I wanted to talk to different women and talk about their experiences with support or their ideas about it, in addition to my own story. So I'm hoping in that, again, whoever reads the book feels like I can relate to all, or at least some, of these women and their journeys of getting support.
You know what, this is really powerful. And I'm looking forward to the book coming live. And I know we live in strange times, so they won't probably be, the whole book parties as it should be, but we're
going to figure it out. We're going to do some virtual something. I'll keep you posted.
And during our pre-conversation before the show started, you talked about something about sometimes you need to know who are the anchors in your life. Let's talk about that just really briefly. What do you mean when you talk about anchors, that there's some people who are anchors in your world?
This is something that I learned from a woman I interviewed on the podcast named Michelle Villalobos. She talks about being very close to her parents, and I can relate because I'm close to mine. She's of Cuban descent, and she talks about, wanting the approval. And she's an adult woman. She has her own business, a very successful one, as a matter of fact. And she talked about, though, realizing that her parents were anchors for her when she would share with them different things she was doing in her business, or ideas, not even things she was doing in her business, just ideas that she had. She felt like they weren't supportive, and they essentially were being anchors. So anchors aren't people who are, and they were unknowingly doing this, right? So anchors aren't people who were haters, as we say, or people who, don't like you, or you might think want to hold you back for those reasons. A lot of times anchors are essentially folks who want to hold us in place because they're fearful for us. So that could be like a parent, or because maybe it's a childhood friend you've known for years, and this is the person you've always been, or what we've always talked about. Now you're trying to do those other things. So literally thinking like an anchor that holds a ship in place, that's what an anchor is. And I just wanted to express that it's not always, again, the hater or someone that you don't get along with at work, and that's not who we're talking about. often I believe the anchors in our life are people who are close to us, because other folks, we don't care. We're not going to listen to them anyway.
Yeah.
You care what your spouse says, or your, partner, or these other people in your life who might, for whatever reason, their own reasons, whether they're conscious or not, want to keep you safe, essentially, right? You want to keep it in place. So that's what an anchor is. On the other side of that is your engines. So people for me who are engines are the girlfriends that I mentioned, but also my coach. I have a business coach, Margot Geller, who's I'm very close to. I mentioned her in the book and talk about her all the time on my podcast. But she is an engine. So the engines are people you can go to even when you mess up, not necessarily when you're trying to do something or you're doing something well, you mess up, and they hold you to your highest. These are the people who fuel you, who gas you up, essentially, right? Who remind you of who you are and who you aspire to be. Those are people who are your engines. Again, might not be your partner, might not be your spouse, it might be someone who you pay to talk to you, or your therapist, your counselor, or I do have girlfriends, I'm fortunate, who are engines for me in different ways. So even that, like some girlfriends I just talked to about business, entrepreneurship, no, not just, but that's who they are. So they understand. Other girlfriends, I'm not a mom, but I talk to them about motherhood because I want to hear about that. So hopefully I'm an engine in supporting them in that way. So people are different, take up different areas of your life, different spaces in your life, but decide who your anchors are and your engines. Your anchors, you might have to restructure that relationship with them, right? So it doesn't mean you're going to just cut them off. You're not going to cut off your parents or those kind of things. So for me, with my parents, it's similar to Michelle. I know I can't share with them the idea for a business. They don't like this entrepreneurship thing. They're glad I'm doing okay with it, but they wanted me to get a good job like they did and that kind of thing, which I had and left, right? So, but I know I have to either share with them the end result. So whether I worked on this thing and it didn't work out, which they're like, oh, okay, that's too bad. Or I worked on this thing and it did work out, which they can celebrate. I can't say, me and Lillian got this idea. We're going to invest $30,000 each in this project. We don't know if it's going to work out, but this is what we envision.
Then they're like,
I can't share that. Shame on me if I share that with them, because I create a space for them to become anchors, because they're going to express their worries and concerns because they love me, but they want to keep me safe. They want to keep my ship in place. Whereas if I say to Margot, this is what I'm thinking about, this is what I want to do, she's going to be like, well, how can we do this? What are the questions? Because she's an engine, because she can see the vision without the fear.
Okay. I like this. I really do. And, it will be remiss of me if I let you leave the show. And girl, I could keep you here forever. It would be remiss of me.
I just sent a message like, still on the interview. Gotta go to the next meeting.
If I didn't ask, you're doing the book, you're podcasting, you're working with your clients. How did you piece together your team, Elayne? How did you piece together your team that support and are your engine?
I looked at where I really needed the support. I think as we talked about doing an inventory, that's what you have to do. At least what I did from a business perspective too. Like, where do I need the most support? And for me, bringing in people into my business was when I started to notice not only, when you have the funds and things to hire someone, but I started to become the bottleneck in my business. So I was actually slowing things down. So with podcast production, for example, even though I do the show now, air the show once a week, I went from 5 days a week for 2 years, and I did 3 while I was traveling internationally. Now I'm down to 1 show a week. I had to get help. I wasn't able to write. I was writing all the copy, doing all the editing of the episode, review. It was too much. So once I now have sponsors who work with an agency, Ad Large, and we get great sponsors for the show, pre-approved sponsors. So not anyone I don't want there. But I was able to get help. So that's what I had to do, an inventory of where am I becoming the bottleneck in my business. And I think it's the same is true for your life. Like, is your child missing all the soccer practices just because you won't ask someone to carpool, like carry the kid there and you pick them up or figure it out and get support, whatever that looks like. Are you becoming the bottleneck in your life to the things that you want to create or experience just because you don't want to get support? So that was it for me. And then I chose, the best people that I felt could, fill those positions over time.
Great. I think that's so crucial when you start doing that inventory and go, yep, I'm the problem.
That's right. I'm the problem. Yep. That's what it was. I am the problem.
So we've come to that space in the show where we get to have our So Loud moment of the week, where we get to celebrate, you get to celebrate a person. It could be anything. What are you choosing to celebrate for the 27 days of January that we have experienced, even up to last year? What are you celebrating?
I choose to celebrate you, connecting with you. I'm not just saying that, just because it would be a nice thing to say, but, I honestly am. I think we connected on LinkedIn. You reached out to me there, right? We connected on LinkedIn. You told me about your show. Let's do it. Email me. Let's figure it out. So I am celebrating you just taking that step and reaching out and introducing me to your audience. I hope, everyone has enjoyed the conversation. Yeah, but you showed up, you took a step, right? And decided to reach out. So that was important. And I think that's a good way to, for me, at least, it feels like a good way to close and saying I celebrate you and I appreciate you just for one, following and listening to the podcast. I mean, you were like on episode such and such. Like, oh my gosh, what did I say? But I just love that you listen. And, on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is my favorite platform. So I'm at Elayne Fluker there if anybody's looking for me. Yep. But yeah, I would like to celebrate because I love, new connections with your Virgo like my dad. So I understand you weirdos. You're so grounded. Pisces, we think you're the weirdos, but we're actually the weirdos because we're always daydreaming, and Virgos are like, let's bring it down here. Just like, we just need to, what are we doing? What are we really doing in real life, not in your fantasy world? So yeah, but I'm just happy to be connected to you and to your audience. I appreciate you.
Elayne, thank you so much. And I don't think I've ever been called a weirdo. But you know what? I'll take it.
Let me be the first Pisces to call you Virgo a weirdo.
I'll take it.
Beyonce's a Virgo too, so
that's okay.
Beyonce is a Virgo too, so you're a good kind of weirdo.
Yes.
And let me just say real quick about the Beyonce thing before we go. When we were talking about the her having a team of people, I remember, quick story, Jay-Z being on a radio show or whatever here in, I'm not in New York. I don't remember how long ago it was, but they already had kids at the time. And someone happened, I don't know, asked him for some reason, like, do you change diapers for his kids? And he was like, yeah, of course. He was like, but I have an army of people helping me. So he probably doesn't change diapers or didn't change diapers. But the fact that he felt so comfortable saying, I have an army of people helping me, which was probably a understatement. But we were just talking about the idea of, Beyonce has everything. Even her husband said, we have an army, which she probably never would have said. I don't know. But, because women, we don't want it to be like, oh, I have people changing the diapers for me. He was like, but yeah, I'll do it. But you do know I have an army of people who do that kind of stuff. So we just have to get, let's get as comfortable as asking for help, having the help, whatever that looks like, personal, professional, whatever you can do.
Awesome. Elayne, and I think that is the perfect place to end the show. Thank you so much for being our guest today. And, the show is going to go out. We'll let everyone know when it's going out, but it's been absolutely fantastic having you on the show. Just for those listening again, can we get how to connect with you? I know you're Elayne Fluker. I'm going to pretend I can speak.
Elayne Fluker.
Yeah, yes. Elayne Fluker on LinkedIn, but how else and where else can they find you?
Yes, I'm Elayne Fluker on all the platforms. And then I would love for you to go to the website, getoverIgotit.com. So that's the website for the book, but it also has all my information, my contacts. You can get some special free downloads there. Some more information. You can see a video about the book and that journey of this idea of getting over I got it syndrome is what I call it. So please go to getoverIgotit.com.
Awesome. And also, could we have, just for those who are stateside listening as well, can we have the website for the SiS.Academy as well?
Yes, SiS.Academy. And I actually have some folks who are subscribed, I think, in Europe. So SiS.Academy will take you right there.
Okay. And is that .com, .co?
Nope. It's just SiS.Academy. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
folks, can you believe Academy is a domain now?
Okay. I learned something today.
There you go.
So, folks, you know what to do. You've listened to Elayne. Follow her, reach out to her, not in the creepy kind of way. Follow her online, reach out to her on LinkedIn. You have to start thinking about, how do I get over it now? Get a copy of the book and share with her what you like from the show. Listening to her podcast, Support is Sexy. So you know what to do. Go find her. And it's a wrap. Now, if you've enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Give us a like, give us a review. We'll love to hear from you. And if you know another amazing person that needs to be on the show, send us a message. So, folks, it's a wrap. Love having you on.
You've been listening to the Shine Out Loud Show. If you want to connect with us or let us know what you thought of today's show, be sure to follow us on Twitter @Shine Out Show.